going to be discussing glass making pendants. Now there's a couple of tools you're going to want to know about if you're going to be interested in glass making at home, but this is just a quick go over of some of the simple things that you might use to get started at glass making at home. Now the kits that we're going to send with you, if you're part of the kit sign up, will be much more simple than this, and a lot of this will be done for you. The first thing we're going to look at that you have to have no matter what are safety gloves. These are specifically for cutting glass, and you can get them on Amazon. The name of the company is Fortem, and this is a level 5 cut resistant glove. Okay, and you can see that the bottom has been rubberized, and it just stops any kind of glass from getting through when you're using it on your hands. Next, what we have are these different pliers over here, so some of these different tools. The very important thing that I want you to focus on is this little guy right here. He doesn't look like much, but he is actually a glass cutter. It's not very sharp on the side. It comes to an edge like a pizza roller, and really what you do is you roll across the surface of the glass and give it a slight cut across there by grinding into it. And what that does is you're going to take this tool right here, which is a set of pliers that has a rubberized grip, and you're going to use your gloves and you're going to very gently click and break it on that line. Then you're going to have pieces that you're going to want to pick up that are a little sturdier, like this one here. This will help you get into some weird chunks that you need to get. You have tweezers, which will be come in super important. The type of tweezers you'll be getting at home if you join up for the kit is going to be a pair of plastic tweezers. It doesn't matter what kind of tweezers you use as long as they're reliable and they can pick up glass. And the last but not least here, if you have any pliers at home, you want to keep them on hand just in case you want to kind of snip the end of something to dull it down a little bit more. And I'll show you how that works later. Here we have glass frit, which is a glass that basically has a color family added to it. Frit just means broken glass, pieces of broken glass. They come in different shapes and sizes and amounts, and you can buy them online if you want. But I like to break my own frit, so I put them into color families that are similar. You can see here very similar colors: yellow spectrum, warm; pinks, reds, warm; green, slightly cooler greens, and some warmer greens. And then you have your blues here, and this one's a lot of cobalt because that's just what I happen to have at the moment. So then once you have your frit, what you're going to do is you're going to use this here to go ahead and pick up different pieces. You can sort through it. A lot of times we'll dump it out, so that's what this is for. Okay, and next we have glue, school glue. Regular old school glue in a cup, or in a pinch, you can use this Elmer's washable school glue, which is the purple. The purple is the stickiest. I'm not really sure why. And then you're going to need an old paintbrush of some kind or something to apply with. So any old little kid's paintbrush will be perfect for this. And you're probably thinking, glue? What do you need glue for glass? It's going in an oven. Well, it temporarily holds the place of the glass so it doesn't slide when you're creating. Next, you have pieces of glass. Now, this one here, as you can see, has been pre-cut. I'm going to very carefully pick this up. Pre-cut into a kind of rectangle shape. And there's different types of glasses. We have an opaque glass like this. If you hold it up to the light, there's not much light getting through. And then you have a transparent glass like so. You can see through it. Okay. Then you have reflective glasses like this that are coated with a special film from the manufacturer. Light turns slightly, you'll be able to see it. It looks clear upon first inspecting, and then it gets shiny. And then we have diacrylic glass, which is a glass that has a very special coating on it. Usually it's iridescent. It could look like a wild kind of oil. What it does is it is a glass that cannot go under intense heat scrutiny. It has to be a little bit lower temperature for it to happen. We're gonna kind of explore that a little bit when we make our pendants. And then over here, if you're somebody who has trouble seeing or your eyes get worn out easily, a lot of people use just a magnifying glass. And this will not be sent in your kits just because it's a little cost prohibitive. But if you're somebody who needs a little bit of assistance with that visually, this might be a tool for you as well. So these are kind of our starter set of tools. When we do glass making at home, we're kind of doing our own kind of creative endeavor. Also, don't want to forget kiln paper. I almost forgot about kiln paper. It's super important. Kiln paper is a super heat resistant paper made of different chemicals and minerals. Some people are a little touch sensitive to this. I'm not too bad to the kiln paper, but kiln wash I'm actually allergic to. So you want to be a little careful with that. If you have any sensitive skin or allergies in your household, make sure you're wearing gloves when handling kiln paper. And what you do is you just set your item on that kiln paper, and it's going to go ahead and go in your mini kiln if you're doing anything at home, or when you do the workshop and you do it with us and you have your activity kit, we're going to go ahead and do that for you. But still, when you're creating your piece, you're going to want to make sure it is on kiln paper. One thing I wanted to discuss with you real quickly before we jump into pendant making is the coefficient of expansion. A lot of people who are looking at glass will see a listing next to it that has a number. So that's your coefficient of expansion. It just means how fast and how quickly the glass melts, expands, and then cools again. So most of the time when we're doing simple glass making at home, and you're not really getting into all kinds of really extensive sculpture, we're just sticking with 90 or 96 COE, coefficient of expansion, okay? And do you need to know all the math and everything behind that? Only if you feel like looking it up. Honestly, it's not necessary. There is an old adage that said that whatever number that you bought, you should stick with that number when you're creating glass, because otherwise it's not guaranteed that it'll tack together at the same temperatures and all that other stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, each time a sheet of glass is made, you're taking a chance if you're merging it with heat to another sheet of glass, because it is not created under exactly the same conditions. It's just going to happen. So a good rule of thumb is to keep it with the same number, but that doesn't always guarantee success. Glass is a little bit of a wild creature. You're never quite sure what it's going to do. What we have over here is these are pieces of glass that were part of kits and things that we purchased, okay? And this is bullseye glass. It's really beautiful. It comes in lots of different shapes and colors and things like that. And this is sheet rolled, okay? And you can see here that the edges are real kind of clean. This almost looks like a little ocean. And then same thing, this was all made in a factory, okay? And then we have some things that were donated. So this glass here with the foil oil kind of cover look there was donated, and this glass here that has a kind of crystal cut on it that's been etched into it was also part of a donation. So when you get donations, you're never sure what COE you have. So we're going to stick mostly with these here, and then we'll probably do a clear cover just to be on the safe side. So what I'm going to do for my first pendant here, well, actually we'll do two. Make one on each side there so you can see. We'll make one with this wavy bullseye glass, and then I think we'll make one, a small one, with this little fella right there. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, first things first, before we get too far into it, you want to make sure to cover your glass in a thin coat of glue, just school glue. Don't worry, it's not going to affect things when it goes into the kiln. It just doesn't. It melts off. It disappears, and all it's going to do is hold your stuff in place. And I've had people and clients and students ask me, hey, why do we have to glue this? I don't understand. It's going to be glued together in the kiln. Well, it just doesn't slide around. From here to the kiln, we don't want your artwork to slide when I transport it to fire it, or if you're doing it at home, the same type of thing, right? So what I'm going to do here is I have a couple different things that are really interesting. I have some diachroic glass, and you should get a little bit of diachroic glass in your kit. And then I have a bunch of different colors of frit here that I really like. And what I usually suggest to people is figure out kind of a design that you want to do first. What I want to do here on this one is I want to keep these mostly blues and greens with a little bit of diachroic glass added in. And then on this one over here, I'm going to go wild style with it, where I'm going to do all kinds of different colors and things and just kind of have fun with it and see how it works out, okay? What you have in front of you here is called a mini kiln. Now this one's been through quite a lot of cycles of use, so he's a little beat up there. And you can hear, it sounds pretty hollow because it is, right? Inside here there's a heating element, which is basically some packed pieces of metal. And then this whole thing is made actually of basically kiln paper and kiln wash, and it's kind of all crammed together. So they're minerals that have to be super heated way beyond the kiln's capability in order for it to start on fire or melt. So that way it's never an issue. It also completely rejects things like glass. So if you take your piece of kiln paper and you set it here on this little base, same thing with this one, and they're kind of close together. So what I usually do is I take one off like this, like so, put one there, and then the little guy goes over here. And you want to be careful with your kiln paper like this, because see this little edge that happens here? What we'll need to do instead is we'll need to tear a little bit of that off. And it's very easy to do. Just real gently pull like that. Because if you have kiln paper that comes across too far, what it's going to do is it's going to make a line at the bottom of your pendant, which is not the end of the world, but sometimes it can be inconvenient when you want to glue something to it like a bail. Okay, so we have this one here. Make sure it stays in the circle of both of them, and they have quite a bit of space in between them. So all we're going to do now is we're going to make sure that we take this top here, we turn it over, place it in there. And this is why we put the glue on first, because we are not worried about anything slipping and sliding. Now, when you're going to put this in, you don't need gloves. It's just going in the microwave, but it is very important that when you put it, take it out, you need to be wearing gloves, and it has to be put on a cooling pan of some kind, and it has to be put on top of your stove at home, or a rack, a metal rack, far away from anything else, because this is going to be heated to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of degrees on the outside, and then the inside, it's going to be way hotter. Okay, this whole element in the inside is going to be glowing red. So right now we just have a 1,000-watt microwave, and what we're going to do is we're going to double check that nothing has slid around. Those are still placed in the middle, looks good, although this fellow right here is suspiciously close to the edge. He did slide a tiny bit. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and cover. And the time for a microwave varies on the wattage, but if you can, you always want to make sure to have a 1,000-watt microwave, and we're going to put ours on for about 9 minutes. So this has been annealing for about half an hour, so it's safe to kind of take a look at. You can see here that this is different than the other ones that I've shown you so far. This one is a tack fuse that's not fully melted the edges around it. And those are really cool for just a different kind of look.